So I'll begin with the chapter, girls. Page 42. Yonder sky that has wept tears of compassion upon my people for centuries untold, and which to us appears changeless and eternal, may change. So the very first line describes the sky, which is an integral part of nature. So Chief Seattle says that this distant looking sky, okay, when we look at the sky, we cannot see the end of it. So this distant looking sky, for centuries, for for hundreds of years, it has wept tears of compassion. It has shown compassion to my people and to us, that is Red Indians. This vast sky, it seems changeless. That means it seems same. Okay, it is eternal. It may never change. But today is fair. Tomorrow it may be overcast with clouds. But today is fair, but there is a possibility that tomorrow it may change. It may overcast with clouds. So the clouds, overcast with clouds, here symbolizes the bad weather. Okay, the dark clouds symbolize bad weather or the coming bad days. So Chief Seattle says that today it is fair. Okay, today we are finding everything perfect, but tomorrow may not be the same. My words are like the stars that never change. And he compares his words, he compares his promise to the stars, and he says that just like the stars that never change, they do not change the position at all, in the same manner, the words that have come out from my mouth, they will not change. That means once I have made a promise, I'm not going to break my promise. Whatever Seattle says, the great chief at Washington can rely upon with as much certainty as he can upon the return of the sun or the seasons. So he calls himself a very stable man, a man of his words, and he compares his promises to that of the sun and the seasons. So just like how the sun, okay, it's a vicious circle, girls. The rising of the sun, the setting of the sun, and the coming and going of different seasons. It's a vicious circle. You can say it's a natural phenomena which does not change. So similarly, Chief Seattle says that you can rely upon my words. I'm a trustworthy person. Once I have given a word, I'm going to keep my word. So the great chief at Washington, he can rely on my words and my promises. The white chief says that big chief at Washington sends us greetings. So this white chief, who is the representative of the big chief here refers to George Washington. At Washington sends us greetings of friendship and goodwill. This is kind of him, for we know he has little need of our friendship in return. So it's a kind of good gesture from him, because we know that what a mighty man these white men are, and they do not need the friendship of us. Okay, we are primitive people, we are very backward people, and why do these mighty men, these advanced men require our friendship? His people are many. They are like the grass that covers vast prairies. Now prairies are the grasslands which are found in Canada, and just like grass, okay, grass, can you count grass? No, none of us can count grass. So in the same manner, he's comparing the grass to the white men, and he's saying, just like the prairies, the white men are uncountable, unlike us who are very few in number. So my people are few. So Red Indians are very few in number compared to the white men who are uncountable. And then he compares the Red Indians to the storm-swept plain. I'll read that line. They resemble. Resemble means they look like. Here they refers to the Red Indians. The Red Indians look like the scattering trees of a storm-swept plain. So he compares the Red Indians to the trees of a storm-swept plain. The great here refers to the big chief, and I presume good. So he has never met the big chief personally or in person. So he is just assuming, he is presuming that he may be good. White chief sends us word that he wishes to buy our land. So this is the proposal sent by the white chief, that he wishes to purchase our land, but is willing to allow us enough to live comfortably. But at the same time, He promises us that we will not be troubled in any manner and we will be living a comfortable life. This indeed appears just, even generous, for the red man no longer has rights that he need respect, and the offer may be wise also, as we are no longer in need of an extensive land. So, according to Chief Seattle, since the Red Indians are very few in number, they do not need a vast, extensive, or vast, or a big country like theirs. So he finds this proposal quite wise. I'll read the lines again. This indeed appears just. Just means fair, even generous, for the red man no longer has rights that he need respect, and the offer may be wise also, as we are no longer in need of an extensive country. Now, next paragraph. There was a time when our people covered the land as the waves of a wind-ruffled sea covered its shell-paved floor. But that time long since passed away with the greatness of tribes that are now but a mournful memory. So now, recalling the past years, past glorious years of these Red Indians, what he says, that there was a time when our people, that is the Red Indians, okay, they were numerous in number, and just like the waves, just like the waves of a wind disturbed sea covered its shell covered floor, in the same manner these Red Indians had filled the entire land. But now it's very, very sad, it's a very pathetic sight that they are in very, you can say, very few left in numbers. I will not dwell on, nor mourn over. Untimely decay here refers to the destruction of this tribe, that is Red Indians tribe, before time. And I'm not going to mourn on it, I'm not going to meditate on it. Nor reproach my pale-faced brothers. Reproach means nor disappoint my pale-faced brothers here refers to the white men, with hastening it, as we too may have been somewhat to blame. So he considers his own tribe also at fault, that we too are to blame for this miserable condition of ours. So I wind up here today, girls. Tomorrow we shall continue with the chapter. Good day.